Hi, this is Dirt Farmer Maggie, and today I'd like to share my recipe for our house bread that we serve at our Airbnb. I make this bread at least once a week, sometimes twice a week, depending on how busy we are. And I've gotten really fast at it, but I'm going to show you how easy it is to do, so stay tuned. Anytime you're making any kind of a yeast bread product, you need to make sure that you have your dry ingredients and your wet ingredients separate. Don't ever mix them together at the same time. And I'm going to show you the step-by-step process to do this. The first thing I do is get my dry ingredients ready. And really it's only 3 ingredients in the dry. You've got flour, oats. This is a honey oat bread that I make. And it has to be instant yeast. So make sure when you get your yeast, it's instant yeast. So I went ahead and mixed these together. One thing I want to show you about flour though, with bread, it is so critical to have exact measurement. And in the past, I would just dump flour into, I have a big 8 quart measuring cup, and I would just say, oh, that's close to 6 cups. And I would do that, and 9 times out of 10, the dough didn't mix correctly. So it's really important. I have these really nifty measuring cups here, and it's to loosely put it in and then skim it off and make sure it's exactly a cup. That will help you a lot in not having to tweak back and forth when you get your dry ingredients. So once you mix in 6 cups of flour, you're going to do 1.5 cups of oats, and make sure it's old-fashioned oats, not instant oats, and 4.5 teaspoons of instant yeast. So that's what I have mixed in this bowl. I'm just going to put it into my KitchenAid, and we'll get that ready, and then we'll move over to the stove and we'll do the wet ingredients. Okay, now we're going to mix together our wet ingredients. You always want to heat your wet ingredients to 105 degrees in order to activate the yeast in your dry ingredients. Yeast will activate at 105. More than 105, you might kill your yeast and then your bread won't rise. Less than 105 and it won't activate. So the temperature is really important. So I have a digital thermometer here that goes Celsius and Fahrenheit. So you can see now it's reading at 68 degrees, which is what temperature it is in the kitchen right now. So I've already melted 2 tablespoons of butter. You want to use the butter, not margarine, and it needs to be unsalted butter. And the reason you do unsalted butter is because you want to be able to control the amount of salt in your bread. And if you buy salted butter, you don't know how much salt is in there. So we're going to actually add salt to this. So I've got this. I'm going to turn my fire on. And you want to make sure that you add each ingredient, and then we're going to bring that whole thing up to 105. We're going to do 1/2 cup of water, and always add the water first before the honey, because once this is wet, the honey is going to come out really easy. We get honey from a local beekeeper out here, so it's a little crystallized. Sometimes you have to microwave it a little bit to get it to run. Okay, and then I'm just going to add that honey, scrape it out. So we've got our butter, we've got our honey, and our water. The next ingredient we're going to add is 2 cups of milk. It can be non-fat milk or whole milk, whichever you like to use. I usually use whole milk. And then we're going to now add our salt, and you want 3 teaspoons of salt. Now you've controlled your salt intake for this recipe, and that will be great. All right, so we're just going to stir all that up, and it'll take a while to heat. I can't tell you how many times I have got it way too hot, and then I have to put the pan in a big pan of ice and try to bring it down to 105. So it's always better to start with a low flame and be patient instead of being impatient. So we're going to watch this and stir it, and when it gets up to 105, we're going to add it to our dry ingredients. Another thing that's really important with your thermometer is to make sure that it's not touching all the way down at the bottom of the pan. If it's touching the bottom, obviously it will go up a lot faster than really what the temperature of the ingredients are. So make sure that the thermometer is about halfway in to the liquid so it's getting a real temperature. Okay, we've reached 105. You're going to want to use a dough hook on your KitchenAid. So we'll get that on there. And then you want to add this all at once, not gradually. And then we're going to turn it on to the second setting on your KitchenAid and let it start to mix. Oh, obviously lift the bowl too. The object is to get all the flour away from the sides of the bowl and incorporate it into a really soft, pliable dough. So sometimes that's going to take 10 to 15 minutes. Sometimes it goes a lot quicker. And the best way to make it go quicker is to measure exact. So make sure that all of your dry ingredient measurements are exactly what the recipe calls for, as well as the wet ingredients. Now we just have to be patient and watch. You want to resist the temptation to stick a spatula down in there and help it. Just be patient and let it pick up all the flour on its own. Once the dough all comes together and gets off the sides of the bowl, then we're going to start timing for 10 minutes and let it knead for 10 minutes. So you can see now that all of the flour has been picked up and incorporated in, so I'm going to set my timer for 10 minutes to let it knead, and then we'll go to the next step. We're about 5 minutes into our kneading time, and you can see this dough has totally cleaned the inside of the bowl, and it's starting to climb up the dough hook, and that is perfect. That's what you want it to do. It'll fall back down, get reincorporated, and we're going to knead that for another 5 minutes. While it's kneading, I'm going to get my bowl ready for the rising process, and I just use shortening and a paper towel and just do a nice job greasing the inside of your bowl so that as it rises it won't get stuck to the bowl, and pull a hole in your dough as you're taking it out. Okay, our timer just went off. We've been kneading the bread for 10 minutes. So now we're going to take it out of the bowl, and it looks like it's going to be it should be sticky. You can see it's a little bit sticky. That's perfect. It should be really soft and pliable, which it is. You can see the little bit of the consistency of the oats in there, which gives it a really great crumb. And so I'm just going to make it into a little ball like that, and I'm going to take it over and put it on top of a warm oven to rise. So you want your bread to rise for an hour, and you cover it with a cloth of some kind, and I usually put it at about 340, 330 oven and just set it on top of the oven, and we're going to set the timer for 1 hour. And I'm gonna go have some coffee. See you in an hour. Okay, so an hour has gone by. As you can see, the dough has risen really nicely. And so we're going to put it into our pans now and let it rise for another hour. But first you're gonna want to generously grease your pans with shortening. And don't be afraid to get it nice and covered because you don't want the bread to stick. So I'm going to just reach in here and get this out. You can see how it's really soft, really nice. Just basically kind of divide it in half, and we'll make it into a loaf. Put it in there. This is going to be great. You can always tell once you start making bread, and the more you make it, the more you'll be able to know when the ingredients were just right, and it's going to be great. And this is going to be a great batch. So I'm just going to put it on top of this warm oven, and we'll set the timer for another hour. See you back in an hour. Okay, the timer just went off. It's been an hour that our bread's been raising, and there we have it. Looks beautiful. It's nice and above the top of the pans. It's just the way we want it to look. So I've got my oven set to 350, and I've got a pan of water in the oven to help keep the bread moist as it cooks. So we're going to put these in here, and they're going to bake at 350 for 35 minutes. When they come out, you're going to take them out, roll them off onto a cooling rack, and butter the top of them with a brush and a butter. And this is one that was made earlier. It's very nice, delicious, great toast, great PB&Js. So give it a try. I hope you liked this video. If you did, give us a like and subscribe to our channel. Until next time, I'm Dirt Farmer Maggie.